Welcome to the Revenue Builders Podcast, a weekly show featuring B2B sales leaders and executives. Hosted by five-time CRO John McMahon and Force Management co-founder John Kaplan, the show goes behind the scenes with the people who have been there, done that, and seen the results. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help us reach more people. Revenue Builders is brought to you by Force Management. We help companies improve sales performance, executing the growth strategy at the point of sale. Find us at forcemanagement.com. Enjoy today's episode.
So, Carsten, it's great to have you on, and congratulations on the success on the tour so far this year. And I think you guys had a really good showing at Wimbledon too. What was the mix of men and women that were using your stuff?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it started already at the French Open. We were very successful, and Wimbledon was the sherry of the cream, let's say. Especially in juniors, where I take care, we had 30% of the boys and 30% of the girls playing with our brand. And it's very successful when you think we're coming from, I think, 5% 10 years ago. So it was a long journey and a lot of work to do. And finally we had some great results, winning some titles at the juniors, also women's doubles, and we're on the way.
Yeah,
right.
Congratulations.
It looked like you had a number of junior championships at the French Open, right?
Exactly. That was something I'm very proud of. It's especially the German boy, doesn't sound very German, but his name is Niels McDonald. His real father is from Scotland, and but he's playing since he's born since he plays tennis for Germany. He was with us as a small boy, and we re-signed him in March and in May, and nobody had him on the list. He won the French Open, and I was on his side all the matches. It was crazy. It was incredible. Very special also for me.
You were telling me a little bit about that. That's a really good lead-in for what we're gonna talk about. Obviously, you and I sat down at the Bad Homburg. I don't want to mess it up, but Bad Homburg, which is just outside of where I lived when I was living in Frankfurt and Neu-Isenburg or Bad Soden. And we sat down and we were talking about, that's how we got introduced by a common friend named Christopher Rummel. And we were talking a little bit about, you were telling me about the McDonald kid from Germany, and just the journey of that was really, that's what got us to talk about this podcast, because you spotted him young, then you lost him, or he went somewhere else, and then you get him back, and then the way you were going to get him back and how you committed to him. Let's talk a little bit about that journey, because I think it really sums up the having to be all in on scouting these kids. Tell us a little bit about that story.
So I met Niels, I think he was 10 years ago, and he played YONEX. We saw talent for sure. I mean, in the age of 10, it's hard to say, but
he's 10 years old when you first see him.
Yeah, exactly. And then This kid had something very, very special. I mean, he was a good tennis player, but when he was 12, he came alone to Zagreb. We had a junior tennis program, a weekend intense camp for international top juniors. And there was a thunderstorm, so he had to come one day later, and he took the flight in the age of 12 from Hamburg to Düsseldorf and from Düsseldorf to Zagreb. And I picked him up at the airport. So he made the journey himself. Picked him up, and he was very cool. I mean, I knew him already, but you have to imagine we started the camp on Thursday, and he came in on Friday evening. So everybody was already know each other. So he came in, and he was one of the youngest, and he entertained the group like this. So he was not afraid. He was talking a lot. Maybe a little bit like me. That's why we like each other. I'm also talking a lot. So, and he was not, he had no fear. He came in, and for me, it was the first time I realized he has attitude of a champion. So he's a good tennis player, but the attitude and the way he was very special. So, and then, as you said, I told you that we lost him to a competitor because at that time, it's now, I think he's 17 now, 5 years ago. And the competitor made a big financial offer. And at that point, I was not a big fan of investing in young kids in that age, putting so much money, because our job is maybe a little bit different. We talked about a lot of parallels to recruiting and scouting, but it's a bet in the future. It's crystal ball. You see something and you put money on this horse and it will win or not. So, and you need to have a lot of experience and also intuition to make the right decisions. And we are always, but I think we will talk about this later. We are always also wrong many times. But coming back to Niels, they made a big offer, and it was so good that we didn't want to match at that time. And I was talking to his stepfather who was taking care, and I said, this is such a good offer. You need to take it. And they were very happy with our support and everything. But he signed with another brand. And we always kept contact to each other. So with him, with the father, when we saw each other, and he always told me, I will come back one day. It was because the kid doesn't really know the background why they signed somewhere else. And I always said, if there will be a door open, I will step in. So, and I believe big time in destiny, and I believe that we all have influence and somehow in destiny. And last year at the ATP tournament in Hamburg, at the men's tournament 250 ATP, he was there with the federation as a hitting partner, and I knew that the contract will end. I mean, we have database and we know about how long the contracts will run. And I said to the stepfather, hey, should we go for a drink or should we have lunch? We should talk. So he developed okay. And with us, our rackets are a bit special. I don't know if you know a little bit about YONEX. Our rackets have a isometric shape. Yeah. And if you grow up with this, it's not easy to play with a different racket shape. And he played with a very controlled racket. So the stepfather told me that they were with the agency, but they are also in talks with other agencies, and that they will be free from end of January on again. So, and then I said, okay, let's give it a try. If he's allowed, because you have some restriction in the contracts that you're not allowed to try other brands before 3 months or something before ending the contract. I sent test rackets, and exactly what I was hoping for, that's why I mentioned the shape of our racket, was actually happening. So he played with the racket, and Magnus Norman, his coach, Mikael Tillström, so very, very good coaches were standing next to him, and everybody agreed that the curve of the ball is different than with the racket before. And this is the best what could happen. And if I try to sign a player or someone approach me, I'm never making an offer before trying, because for me, most important thing is the racket that should fit. And at the end of the day, we will find a solution. So I already had him somehow. And then the kid was already, I think he was confirmed, he confirmed that he wants to make the switch. So then I was talking to the agent, to the father. And then because we're talking about bigger investment in this age, he was 16 at that time, turning 17, born 2008. So he has one more junior year next year. I had to talk to head office in Japan. We're a Japanese company, because I need to have the approval for the contract and the retainer we have to pay. And then at the Australian Open, 2 of my Japanese colleagues from head office scouted him. And it was his first big stage match at the Grand Slam tournament. And I say it how it was. He was shitting in his pants. He got a panic attack, and he was so bad. And both Japanese said, we will not sign him. And I said, we have to sign him, because I really believe in this kid, and I take the responsibility and the risk, and we need to make it happen. So that was in January. So then we signed him in March. after a lot of negotiations. And then he played 2 tournaments in Spain, won the first 2 tournaments with the new racket. And the first big tournament was French Open. He was unseeded. He's also, we signed him, we call it head to toe. So also with clothing and shoes. And then I was on his side every round. If a YONEX player plays a YONEX player, we have to be neutral. We are sitting independent. But I was always in his corner a little bit, try to help. So round by round, he improved. And for me, it was a chance of, let's say, 5% that he can win the tournament. Funny side fact, I was a bit naive, let's say. Before the tournament, I said, if him and I have another player, if one of the 2 will win the French Open, I will make a tattoo of the Eiffel Tower. So I told my team internally and some other people around. So what happened, he won round by round. He beat the other guy in the quarterfinal, the number 1 in the world, Spanish guy, also from us. With the Spanish guy, I was a little bit more afraid for the tattoo, but he lost to Niels. So, and then the little Niels, I know since he's a small boy, he won the French Open against another German in the final on a big court, and he didn't won 1 match by luck. He really deserved. He was dominating every match, and seeing this talent growing round by round was unbelievable. And I also have a sales background, and in my job, it's tough to reach targets or to set targets. If you tell me in sales your target is 10 million, I make 10 million. I did a good job. Doesn't matter how, but to see, and it was the first time that I was fighting against my, let's say, own team, because they didn't believe. Mm-hmm. And I took all the risks, and it paid off. It was an incredible feeling. And I was walking like this through Paris. I mean, it felt great. I didn't play 1 ball, but I won the French Open. I felt like,
yes.
And so having this success is crazy. And he could also lose first round. It's, you believe in something, and I think this is also something in recruitment, that you see some talent in someone, you believe and you support, and you will be on the side, and then if it pays off, it's amazing, and that's why we're doing this job.
Hey, Carsten, I want to go back to some of the intangible things that you saw in Neil originally, and you probably look for some of these same intangibles no matter what their age are, because you talked a little bit about his social skills. He had no fear. He had a champion's attitude. I'd really like to dig into that one. Can you talk a little bit about some of the intangibles that you're looking for in these players?
I talked to John. I think you call him Cap at Bad Homburg, and I mean, if we scout something, we also always scout for something special. Yeah, in best case, the player or the girl or the boy will become professional tennis player and will perform on the big stage later on. And then it's not enough to be a good tennis player. For us as a brand, they need to be marketable. You need to promote them, and we scout everything, but definitely not boring. We would never sign the number 1 if it's boring or something. And then on top, it needs to be this special chemistry. What Cap and me, where we had a good connection. I mean, you know him better than me. He has so much passion, and also our friend Chris has a lot of passion, and I'm the same. And if I like something or somebody, I'm very, very good. And then I go with these extra miles. And I think this is also something in recruitment. If you believe in something and if you love what you're doing, you go these extra miles, and you need to go this. And coming back to the question with Niels, he was, I mean, in the age of 12, I think I was playing with, I don't know, not with puppets, but I was not like him. I was shy. I was also a talented tennis player. I was super lazy. I was good just with my talent, with my natural talent of playing tennis. And he was, you see somebody and you see in the eyes if there's something behind. You also always can see in the front, but you feel by your gut feeling, which is for me one of the most important things in scouting, the intuition, what I already said, and also experience that it could go in this direction. And he was already very independent. I mean, I was not able to fly alone in the age of 12. And he comes in an existing group and he said, here I am, like this. And it was very, very special.
And what about the champion's attitude? You said you used those words. What does that mean to you?
Because he was later, I warmed him up. So we were hitting balls and he had no chance to beat me, but he believed he can beat me. I felt it when we were hitting that. I mean, if we would play with serve, no chance. I would put him in the wheel, but he made a point and it was this, come on. So he believed, and I'm pretty sure if you would ask him now, it would be a good question. Did you really believe that you could beat me? He would say yes.
Yes.
And this is what I mean. He had this, he wanted it. You could see he wants to become very good and on top. And this is something where I was not successful, but where I'm good in scouting and as a consultant for young players. Again, I was super lazy. I won my matches because I had natural talent. And I think the question is always, what is talent? Is talent the way that you are a natural good tennis player? Or is talent, also for me, the biggest talent is the will to work hard. And for me, now I'm ambitious. I want to improve myself. I want to get better every day. But I was late. It came like 10 years ago. I was as lazy when I worked as a sales rep for a good brand. And the brand was so good, it was running from itself. But I never asked myself, how can I get better? I learned very late. And if you see this kind of talent in a young age, then you can see then the percentage with every puzzle piece of making a tennis player is much higher. And this you can see also in early ages.
I got to believe that's one thing you have to be very careful of, because you see this in all sports where some people are just so genetically gifted that they can just rise up through the ranks pretty quickly. And then they get near the top. And then their, let's say, use your words, their laziness or their work ethic just is not there. And they don't have that extra push to make it to the top.
Yeah, because in every part, also in private lives, it's always difficult to go out of your comfort zone. And there you can. This is the difference, because we're talking about small percentages.
Yes,
and this will make the difference.
Yes.
I got a question on as unpacking this and listen to you both. We're talking about a 12-year-old kid. You saw him first at 10, probably. We're talking about a 12-year-old kid, and what I like to see in sales recruiting is I like to see if the person understands and knows why they're good. So it's not just I've won this tournament or I've got these statistics, but if they are emotionally connected to knowing what makes them different. In sales, because like Johnny said, you could have somebody that's just really, really gifted, could be really, really smart, but when they don't understand why they're good and what makes them good, when they reach crisis or they reach a pivotal moment in their career, they don't really have the ability to self-reflect and say, okay, what's working that I normally do that makes me great? What's not working? So I'm assuming that you probably saw this in Niels a little bit, but tell us about the connection to a 12-year-old kid. Is it just belief, or does this 12-year-old kid know why he's good? Does he just believe he's going to be good and he's going to be a champion, or does he have evidence in his mind? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what came into my mind, what you said, is these kind of characters you're talking about, these natural talents, they always or I don't know percentage, but I would say 90%, they were looking for the excuse by others. Yeah, they would never ask themselves, what did I wrong? It is influence, like the wind, the court. So the tennis and tennis players, tennis is a mental game. You need to be mentally very, very good. And you can see when they play matches, how they react on unknown things, what happens suddenly. They have to, and this is also Niels, especially in Niels' case, he was very fast, and he was always finding solution because he's a natural talented player. He's finding also solutions in a natural way because he is also creative. If you have a Spanish guy, he grew up and he only can hit this shot, forehand cross. He doesn't know what to do when the ball comes differently. So my connection to him was special because I liked that he had a big mouth. So I could give him a lot of shit and he liked it and he could give an answer. And you can see also these things is something we scout, not directly, but you can see how he's reacting, or you can challenge them and giving him something and see how he's dealing with that. And you can do, for sure, you would do these kind of things in recruitment, in assessment center. You have to bring them out of their comfort zone and out of the balance, and then you can see how they will react.
Johnny, I used to, I don't know, ride the line a little bit when, we have HR rules and things like that on you're only allowed to ask certain types of questions and about family. And I'm sure that, not intentionally, but I like to know like what makes somebody tick. And what I've found is like the people that have connected with their own stories, like they know there's something about them or their background or the way they were raised or something that has created an environment for them to be very successful. And in some cases, it's a little bit traumatic. Like in my case, I was a good football player because I had some crap going on in my life. So I could do stuff on a football field that was probably illegal if you were just doing it on the street, but it was legal in the sense of as long as you didn't get a penalty in football. But so a lot of times, what makes you great in something is a strength, but it could also be a weakness if you understand. So like, let's say you have and you see this probably all the time, Carsten, you have a very dominating parent or something, and they're all over the kid and so they were doing things unnatural, and the kid was just doing more repetitions than anybody else. They had him out there with the car lights on or whatever. And so that takes a kid to a certain level to make them successful. But then it can also be a little bit of a challenge because that same thing that they did to make them, or that environment that made them great, can also cause other challenges. I always found a relationship between the two. Is it translating, Carsten? Does it make sense? So normally what makes somebody great, there's a potential for causing them problem if they're not in tune with it, if that makes sense.
I mean, we scout everything. We also scout the family background. And first thing, what I'm doing when they're very young, I try to find out the intention, why the kid loves tennis. Is it because the kid loves tennis, or because if the parents want to fulfill the dream that they didn't reach? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a lot of things. And this our responsibility as well because we are talking about kids. I remember there was I got a lot of requests. We're talking about a 7-year-old girl. She had an Instagram profile, and the father text professional tennis player. And I never respond first to the request of the father. And then a few weeks ago, I answered him. I said, listen, I'm not, it's your daughter and it's your job and responsibility. But for me, it feels very strange if I read that a 7-year-old girl is a professional tennis player. So there you can see where the attention is coming from. And I mean, you have a lot of tools and also what you said, maybe it's possible in recruiting if you play tennis and the potential person is also playing tennis. And it's very true. One of my old sales managers once said, you can see the real character from someone on the tennis court. If they play points, it's 100, I can see it's 100% true. If they're a little bit into tennis, you can see if it's a hard worker, if it's a nice weather player, a little bit a showman, if he takes it very serious, you can see the character of a person you can see on the tennis court, because the mask is falling. There's no fake.
I remember taking my son, who was a college lacrosse player. I remember taking him to see the Duke coach at the time. They had just won the national championship. Jake probably was about, 15 or 16. And I can't remember this guy's name right now. I'm bummed out, but he's an unbelievable coach. He's won a number of different national championships, and he's speaking to the kids. So the parents are there and he's speaking to the kids. And I'll never forget, like, some of the things that he said to the kids. He said, we're watching you, not just what you do on the field and your technique and your skill. We're watching your character as it comes through in what you do. And I've translated this later on in life as like, I tell salespeople, you're a walking audition for what you're going to be like as an employee. So is the hiring manager is a walking audition for what they're going to be like in leading or manage you. And some of the things that the person said, I never forgot it. He said, we're looking for things like, he called it palms up. He said, after a play that doesn't go you or your team's way, are you a palms up kid? Like, your palms up in the sky, like, or the ref makes a comment and palms up. So I've never forgotten that, palms up. And Jacob still remembers that. I'm sure he's going to use it with his kids. And then the next thing he said is like, after the game, are you the kid that walks up to your parents and is respectful? Or are you the kid that hands your mother, this one really resonated with me, hands your mother your bag and expects your mother to carry your bag, or one of your parents to carry your bag? And he was dead serious at the examples that he was giving. Like, we look at when you prepare, do you line up your bag? Do you throw your crap? Because there's a lot of gear in lacrosse. Do you throw your crap everywhere? Your practice stuff, do you throw it everywhere? Or do you line your bag up and zip your bag up and put it like neatly to the side? And, I could tell him that stuff forever, but having a national championship coach tell him on some of we're watching everything that you do. So they're a walking audition. So parents are a walking audition. Kids are a walking audition. Salespeople are a walking audition for how they interview. You're watching everything.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of things changed, and this will also be something in recruitment. I mean, I'm not so deep into the American market, but in Germany, if they come from college now, they have so high expectations. It's not that the value we grew up with, what you said, like, it's came into my mind when you said, I hold the bag and ask my mother to carry it. I educate my daughter, she's 12, to be thankful, to say thank you, you're welcome. All these things normal for me, but that changed a lot in the last couple of years. You can see when somebody in Germany, soccer is very, very big. And when I was a kid and you come up from the youth team to the first men's team, you were carrying all the shit. You were carrying the balls, the materials, everything. Now they come from the youth team. They have an agent. They have a Louis Vuitton bag. They will tell you, hey, what's wrong with you? They're already spoiled. And this is the biggest problem we have, especially in Germany. Also, my daughter is spoiled. She has everything. Why? And it's my fault as well, as a daddy, because I had a good childhood and I had more or less everything what I wanted. And the small things what I didn't like, I also made possible for my daughter. I didn't do her a favor. I always say our kids from now need the teachers from back in the days.
100%.
They need to be a little bit tougher, and it will be the same in business. We have people come here, they say, listen, because we have not many good people on the market, and you need to have them in for a certain position, and they come and they tell us, I mean, now talking about Germany, I want to work 4 days a week. I want to have, from these 4, I want to work 2 days at home office. I want to start salary with 80,000 and a company car. And very important, a very good work-life balance. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Big problem.
And
now,
same in
The two things that we always look for when we're looking for salespeople is, one is drive. Where does that drive come from? Is that internally motivated drive, or it's coming from your parents? In your case that you described. So where's that drive come from? Where's that fire come from? And is that fire going to extinguish easily? The other thing we look for is what we call coachability and adaptability, because a lot of people can be coachable. You can tell them, like, this is what you need to do. But not many people actually can look in the mirror and actually adapt and actually do and actually change. So those become, because as people grow and things change, the products change, the messaging changes, the competition changes. Not only do people need to be coachable, but they need to constantly adapt and evolve. And if they don't have those two things of drive and then coachability and adaptability, we find that they just don't make it, or they make it for a year or two, and then, the environment has passed them by and they look like dinosaurs.
And it needs to come from themselves. They need to believe and they trust. Otherwise, if you tell them you have to do this and that, these kind of, also like passionate people will not do it. That's why what are we doing? We are looking for the raw diamond, and we want to cut them, bring them in shape, and make them shine one day. Yeah, and it's the same. And you need to be there at their side. Not only I need to be at Niels' side, not when he win the French Open. I need to be there when he's down and playing somewhere, being in the locker room, and tell him, hey, you have the potential. Believe. We show them the way, and it's a picture, but it is like this. We show them the door, and they need to go through themselves. That's what you call it, the drive.
Yeah.
They need to have the drive and the will. Again, the will to work hard is a talent.
I'm hearing some parallels there. Just in Niels' story, Johnny, I wanted to pick up on this. There were 3 things that caught my attention. Number 1 was a long-term commitment on recruitment. As you, let's say, Carsten, you're the hiring manager, and you are scouting somebody and recruiting somebody for a long period of time. You're not like, oh, I have an opening that I have to fill with somebody. Let me go to the job boards and see who the top kids are, and let me just plop them in. This is just a message to our listeners that are in recruiting positions. The other thing is, you and John McMahon used to say this to me when we were recruiting. He would say things like, hey, John, tell me why you have to have this guy or have to have this salesperson. Tell me why you have to have this person. And what he was looking for was my emotional connection to the situation. Like, did I understand what made this person great? Did I understand how they fit the opportunity? But he would put that onus on me. And so when I'm listening to when they came and saw Niels at the Australian Open and he pooped himself, and you were like, hang on. Okay, so he didn't do so well here, but I have experience with Niels. And let me tell you why he's going to be great. And your responsibility, Carsten, was you had to be audible ready with that. Like, let me tell you why I believe in this kid. And if you didn't believe, then you're because you were asking the company to do something that was probably a little out of the ordinary. And if you weren't behind it, and I've had managers say before, I've said to people, I said, okay, this person is your responsibility. So like if they don't make it, and you kind of put that on the hiring manager, say, okay, this is your call. And do people stand up and say, okay, I got this. Like, I know this kid's going to be successful. Tell us a little bit about how you react to that in the beginning of long-term commitment. You had spent all this time with him. You knew him since he was 10 years old. And then that point where you had to convince your bosses, you put your reputation on the line.
I mean, it's always a thin line or a mix of data. Also, I mean, you both have a tech background and working in the tech industry for many years. We are also discussing about, let's come up with this about AI. So AI can help to find a talent, but it will never replace a recruiter or a scout. No chance. And I was thinking about this many times because sometimes, and in Niels' case, there was not really a reason why. That was the gut feeling, the intuition, because I really believed. And I saw him in many different situations where he convinced me, and this just by numbers, it's hard to explain. And now I'm super happy that he won it, because I have much more trust now from head office Tokyo, because they believe that I know what I'm talking about. And it's always a mix of having information, collecting information. Experience is very, very important for sure. And then again, always coming back to intuition. You sometimes you cannot explain. You see something and you believe. And I think if you work with, I mean, I said it before, I have my quote and I have to show it, do it with passion or not at all. That's me. And if I see something and I like it, I go crazy. I wouldn't say I would die, but and it's the same with this kid. John, you talked about strengths and weaknesses at the same time. I'm this kind of person. Yeah. My passion is my biggest strength, but also my weakness. I'm very impatient. I want to make it happen directly. It's a strength somehow, because I want to finish the deal, but also it's killing a lot of energy. And it's always a mix of a lot of things. And in Niels' case, I mean, he already had a good ranking. He was 2 years younger and he was 25 in the world, under 18. So you could see, and you didn't go there if you cannot play. But these special things I saw in him. And we're not just talking about one. We have 250 juniors under contract in Europe. So, and we need to know them. And you see them every tournament. We have, and it's not me, our scouting team, we are 8. I'm just one part of the scouting team. It's always a team effort, and which is very important, because through the tournaments, all our 16 eyes see much more than my 2. And we discuss about it. Some believe, some are not. And then we would also come to a point where we have to cut them. That's why we go, I mean, you started our talk about the Grand Slam tournament in Wimbledon with it, which is the highest and best place you could be if you love tennis. You know where it starts, somewhere alone in the middle of nowhere at tournaments where nobody wants to be. There you find talents. And people always see my I love my job. I love what I'm doing. It's a privilege for me to earn my money with my hobby, what I like the most. But a lot of people only see me on TV sitting in the box of one of our players, because we are very close with our pros, clapping, and they say, hey, you have such a good life. You got paid to sit in the box. Yes. And nobody sees. We have one quote. I really love it. YONEX, which says far beyond ordinary. And one of the underquotes is beyond what I see. And a lot of scoutings, and I was eating a lot of dirt on the clay court. I was eating dirt in real, but also in my whole life. So, and then if they, and we are also there, if they start becoming a pro, the transition from junior to pro tennis, they're somewhere in Tunisia or in Turkey. You don't want to be at that places, but it starts there. And there you can see who will make it or not. It's never boring. Again, I love what I'm doing. And if it pays off and you see something, and we're trying to find, or we're talking about parallels from recruitment to scouting. For me, one big difference. We are failing 80 to 90% because the player will not make it. In your job, you wouldn't sit there if you had a percentage like this.
Right.
And we take it, and we take the risk, and we do it on purpose, because on every level where the kids are playing, we need to have a share of 20, 25, 30%, but we know that they will not make it to the Grand Slam tournaments. So only a few will make it.
Have you ever seen anyone that was younger and you thought they don't have the intangibles and then they surprised you later on?
Yeah, there are some.
Because sometimes inside people, they might be, by the time they're 10, maybe 12, and then they hit puberty and stuff, especially for boys. And then it can be something that just changes. And then there's a different type of mindset or drive with some people that might not be they're 7 or 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, this case, the boy was a little bit older and he was already good. I will not tell the name, otherwise I will get in trouble. And I sent a report to Tokyo. He was 16 at that time, one of the top 20 juniors in the world, but he was very stiff. He was not this natural talent. He was very disrespectful to his parents. He was super disrespectful to his mother. And I made a report to Tokyo and I said, very cocky guy, very stiff. This kid will never be top 100 player. So this player now is a top 10 ATP player in the world. He's top 10 in the world. So I was not stupid. I could see that he can make it, but I didn't like him. And this is maybe a weakness because I was not open, but again, it shows my passion and my intention. I didn't like the way he was treating his mother. Yeah. I liked the way he was hitting, and I didn't want him to be successful. And for me, it was not enough. The whole package was not enough. I was totally wrong.
Yeah.
But maybe
I like this. This resonates so well with me because for me in recruiting and sales, I used to have this, I still do. It was just a likability. It was a, if you're going to be representing a product and you're going to be listening to somebody and you're going to be presenting the brand or what have you, there has to be a likability there. And people always ask me about, like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, well, let me put it this way. I called it the rowboat test. If I was stuck out in the middle of the lake, Carsten, in a rowboat, and I didn't have any oars, I had no oars, and I'm sitting in a rowboat with this person, would I be comfortable just sitting until somebody came to rescue us, or would I be jumping in the water and swimming to the shore? So the rowboat test for me was likability. So I understand exactly what you're saying because it's big. It's like the person could have all of the stats and all of the what you believe are the characteristics and things that you're looking for. But if they weren't likable, I would just sit in the shoes and say, are my customers going to like them?
I'm looking at it a little different angle.
Yeah.
I look at it from the sense that if this kid disrespects his mom, and I'm wondering who else he disrespects, then even if I sign him because I still think he's a talent, I might have a management problem on my hands.
100%.
There's going to be a whole bunch of other issues that the public may not see, but I'm going to see as I try to manage this kid. So in that case, I would let him go also.
Johnny, on the one thing that Carsten said on convincing his boss, I just wanted, you've been in a position for so many years as a 5-time CRO. you've probably said, hey, I'm not sure about this person. And you were looking for the commitment from the hiring manager, Could you just give us your experiences around that? Did you
Well, we had more of a luxury than Carsten had, right? Because we're hiring somebody that they're probably minimum 22 years old already, right?
Yes.
So, but one of the things I used to always hear from the hiring manager was after we pointed out, what are the risks in hiring this person? Because there's always a risk. And they say, well, he doesn't have this characteristic or that characteristic, but we can change him. And I thought, no. My saying was, if their mother and father can't change them by the time they're 20, you're not going to change them.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. So don't think you can change them. You can't change those intangibles by the time they're 20. It's fixed.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about the same thing. That is a big difference in what Carsten is doing. Because when I think about tennis, and Carsten, you and I talked about this, and it's okay because he's amazing now. But like Federer, when he was a younger guy, was awful. His good tennis player, but his demeanor, it's like he's two different people. So if you were to look at Roger Federer at, I don't know what it was, in 13, 14, 15, 16, I think even, he just was not a pleasant youth. He had a horrible attitude. He would throw his racket. He was almost like John McEnroe, and to see how he would be today it's really hard to believe. So that is a big difference between what we're doing and what you're doing. We get to see typically the Federers at 22 years old or what have you, coming out of college. And like Johnny said, that DNA, it's not totally set, but a lot of the characteristics that we're talking about, there's good foundation in place. So you're not going to be thrown by, how many people do you think, I don't know, there's probably a lot of people that missed it on Federer if you were going on attitude and disposition and crisis.
Yeah, you could see when he was younger, he was grumpy. You are 100% correct. He was smashing rackets, and his Roger Federer RF, and they made the quote perfection. He was nearly perfect, and he was always nice in a natural way. Whatever he said, he's a role model for as a brand ambassador, and through him you are selling rackets. And this is something we are doing this. We are not charity. I always call it like this. We are not doing it to do someone a favor. It is for sure also sales driven. The job I'm doing is to generate more sales in the future. And there are not many players where you sell rackets through. For us as a Japanese brand, the highest gift or the highest good what we have, the holy cow, is the tennis racket. We don't have any differences in the weight, in the balance. Our rackets are very precise, and we're the only brand who has in the contract a fine the player has to pay when they smash our racket. No other brand has this. So we are trying also to educate them, because they have the responsibility to our brand. And if they smash a racket, is something against, and Japanese are very if they have the samurai sword, they prefer to kill themselves. It's something against the brand and the family. And on the other hand, you have a player like Nick Kyrgios. He's about to retire. He's still playing a little bit. But through this guy, you are selling rackets. Nick is smashing. He's paying his own salary by smashing a lot of rackets. But to be serious, if you buy a ticket for a Nick Kyrgios, you will have a show.
You're going to get entertained.
Tennis. Yes, and this and you love it or you hate it, and if you love it, you buy the stuff. And Nick for us is priceless, because back in the days you were talking about John McEnroe, tennis was more entertaining. Now, because of the small differences and small percentages will make the difference, you're not able to do something out of the box. Then you will lose the match. And characters like him are missing in tennis big time.
Let's talk about these parallels as we kind of come into the home stretch, because we've been alluding to them. But, the parallels between, and it's clear we're talking about kind of related things, but different things. You're talking about scouting, precursor to recruiting, and then signing. And I would argue that this identifying potential is an absolute parallel. So we've talked about that parallel of identifying potential. We've talked about understanding intangibles. And what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the coachability and cultural fit, like the coachability part. John, you talked about this, and I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. When you said coachability and adaptability, I think we all understand what that means, but how do you test it, Johnny, for our sales leaders and salespeople listening? How is that tested? And then Carsten, will come back to you.
I mean, you try to find out if the person's going to be open about some time that they lost and admit why they lost. Not like, Carsten said, because of the wind or, because the court wasn't, perfectly flat, those types of things. And they're not blaming it on anyone else. They're blaming their loss on themselves. And were they able to look inside themselves and understand from their leader or on their own what they did wrong and how they need to change, and what did they change, and how did they change it? And that's some of the ways to try to discover it. But you got to dig in deep on those stories. You can't just let them tell a story at a superficial level. You got to dig really deep.
Yeah, and you're looking for evidence, Johnny. And what I'm trying to get to is this: and sometimes in recruiting, people have a checklist mentality versus an evidence mentality that says, I need to have the evidence that somebody's actually done that. So therefore, you have to create the space and allow them to share that experience. So anybody listening, if you're recruiting, you've got to, what Johnny just said is, you've got to put yourself in a situation where you ask somebody a question about not just their greatest wins, and because they're going to be audible ready to talk to you about that, but where they face crisis, where they face challenges, where they had to adapt, and then just let them talk. And you'll find that people are, if somebody's sitting there for like 30 seconds when you say, hey, tell me about your worst defeat that you've ever had. And if somebody's like, the great ones, I've always found the great ones, they're always audible ready with it right away. Well, I'll tell you exactly what that was and what I learned from it. And then Carsten, I'd like to the parallel for you. I was thinking about YONEX Sinner, and I'm sorry, I know he's not your person, but this example for me was like Wimbledon. When people said Sinner against Alcaraz, if you had told me that a year ago, I would have said, that's not even going to be close. That's not even going to be like, I think he lost to him 6 times in a row or something. But yet at Wimbledon, I'm watching Wimbledon and I'm seeing a top-notch athlete do something I've never seen him do before, where he started doing that serve and volley. You know technically more about this than I did, but he clearly was doing something, adapting, and that was the only way he was going to win. And I believe it caught Alcaraz off guard. How do you feel about this, like coachability and adaptability? What does that mean in your world?
I mean, it's one of the most important things, because I already said the percentage is very, very small. There, it's only small decisions will decide who will win the match. I mean, in general, what you said before, and also thinking about the biggest loss, tennis, I said it before, it's a mental game. And you have to imagine, normally you leave the tournament every week with a loss. You're losing. Normally You're not leaving because all of them want to win. So you leave the tournament and you lost. And you need to handle and deal with it. So you need to have also coachability. For me is also, I ask my boss, because I was stuck a little bit and I was not very happy. I want to have a coach. I was working with a business coach. And this is something, if you would tell me you need to go to a coach, that's what I said to Mac at the beginning, I wouldn't do it, but it needs to come from myself. I want to adapt and I want to improve, and then it's going to work. And it's for Sinner. I mean, he has a team. He has a great coach. He was thinking, how can I beat Alcaraz? And he need to change something from the baseline. He will not win. So he need to be more, let's say, not flexible, but flexible in his decisions, open, and change, mix up, surprise him somehow. Yeah, I mean, we are from our scouting point of view 2 years ago. It's let's say, funny story how we get the approach to beat Alcaraz, because we also 2 years ago, he was the one you have to beat. And we were sitting together and we said, what does it take to beat Alcaraz in the future? And we said, we need to find a player who can play faster than Alcaraz can run. It's crazy.
Wow.
But, and we have this player, I can say the name, but we need to be careful a little bit, because he's already spoiled and the ATP is pushing a lot. But because it's a business podcast, I can say it. His name is João Fonseca. He's from Brazil, and he's the one who can play faster than Alcaraz can run. And we believe that this kid will win a few Grand Slam titles. But again, also our responsibility normally not to call the name, because he has already so much pressure, and people expect him to win these big tournaments, and as we do.
Yeah, I think
for me, sorry, to last thing, I always say that also to my friends, family. I'm always thinking, it's very easy to say, I'm always thinking in solutions and not in problems. And it's the same on tennis court. If you're too negative, if you're looking in problems, you will never make it. You always need to find a solution. How can I beat Alcaraz next time?
And who owns that? Like in your business, what I'd be looking for is I'd be looking for the kid, male or female, sitting in that hotel room, trying to figure that out. And not like, I can't stand when they look up at the box and they start screaming at the box and they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't remember that when I watched tennis when I was younger, but there's so many people involved now that like there's the players like screaming at the person, expecting to get an answer from the box, versus the person who's either watching the tape over again to see like, what is it that I can come up with? So like they feel like they own, even though they have a big team, they feel like they own finding the solution. That would be a big one for me. And I don't know. I just see a lot of when I watch the sport, I see a lot of weird stuff that they're kind of yelling. They have so many coaches that they're expecting the coaches to come up with the solution, if that makes sense.
But you also see some of them that have adapted. Like if you look at Sabalenka, a couple of years ago, she was a giant freaking head case.
Oh, yeah.
I used to look at her and go, this girl's so talented and she's never going to win. And somehow she learned how to control most of her emotions. I mean, she just lost recently, but she was winning a lot because she started to control her emotions. That's the only thing that was missing in her game from a layman's standpoint.
No, very good example. Very good example. And don't forget, you mentioned the girl, boy, man, woman sitting in the hotel after a loss. You need social media somehow to present brands and to get followers, create followers, to earn money. But the internet is so unfair because everybody can hide behind, and they're getting so much shit and so much bad things through the internet, and they're facing and Instagram, Facebook, they're not doing enough to protect the athletes. Mm-hmm. And again, we're talking about, we have 2,000 great tennis players in the world, and they all can play. And on one day, maybe the 2,000 can beat the one. Yeah. But there's so many things what comes together, and we all, like Naomi Osaka was talking about mental health. It's super important that they all are in a good balance. How can you find solution and staying positive if you're not in the right balance. And it's the same in the job. I'm 100%. If you don't do what you love, and this is for all the recruiters, the responsibility to, and everybody's trying to find the right person. If you got hired from someone who really believes in you, and then follow them and be at their side and let them grow, this is the best what could happen. And then they will run for you.
I love that. Hey, I would be remiss if I didn't just point this out. Like we're coming to the end of this podcast, but we have like this unspoken difference. Carsten, you are in scouting and recruiting on your side. You have to look at a big part of potential. Johnny, on our side, on the business side, I just want to make sure we wrap a bow around this. Do you have advice on coming away from this podcast of talking to, people that are in recruitment positions and people that have to explain their potential? Where does potential fall on this business side of the conversation? How much weight? Could you just give me your thoughts on that? Because we didn't really talk about that, and I want to make sure that people have a good understanding of what we're saying here. What do you think about the concept of potential? It's difficult in our business.
Yeah, I think so. But for me, I mean, I think it's same than in talent scouting. It will be to find a sales talent or to someone you want to hire will also be a mix of information about the data you have about the person, about the success, the numbers, what the person did in the job before. But again, for me, that's why I said it with AI as well. It's a personal business. So you hire someone and you're responsible for the person. It needs to be a good chemistry. It needs to be the right gut feeling. But then if it wouldn't be like this, we can start working with robots.
Yes.
So especially on sales, it's a personal business. That doesn't matter if it's a key account, big customer, you're dealing with people. And if someone likes me because, I don't know, I'm a nice guy, I'm joking, but I know what I'm talking about, and I know everything about the product you want to know, and I'm reliable, and I'm a nice guy, and I have a boss who believes in me and supports me, and then I start loving what I'm doing, you cannot stop me. And if the company finds the right person like this, I always say you're on the needle. If you have the virus from the company, and also how you represent the brand, it's like what we are looking for. We are looking for athletes who represent our brand very well, in a good way, behave, a smile, small things, what I said. So I think it's also here, it's a mix of the information you will get, but most important thing is the gut feeling and intuition as well. And you don't do it in one interview, you will do it in a few, and you try to you can see, I think you have more experience in this than me, but you will feel if the person is the right person. There are not so many good actors. And if they're acting so good, they should go to Hollywood.
Johnny, how do you feel about
I think
that?
from our perspective, we have a luxury over what Carsten has. Sometimes, most of the time, we're seeing people that are older and have a little bit of a track record. And what I try to see is, what do I think is the headroom or the potential of this person, and where am I catching them on that curve? Am I catching them at the top of the curve and they're not going to grow anymore, or I like to catch them at what I call the knee of the curve? Like no one else really spot them, and I think I'm catching them just before they really take off. That's where I want to catch them, and then I get to have them during their best years. I don't want to catch them at the top because they don't have much more potential, and they're not going to really grow with the company. But
same in tennis.
Yeah, sorry, Carsten, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you're finished with the sentence, but it's same in tennis. And if I find them there, they're much cheaper than they're already here.
Yeah,
it's
right.
also part of the business.
Yes.
I have
but Johnny, I don't envy Carsten compared to what we do. First of all, he has to go scout, essentially intangibles in, let's call them what they are. They're immature kids at the time, right? And then he has to sell. He has to recruit. I mean, he can't just go say, I want this kid and I'm going to go get him. He has to not only recruit, he has to sell. He has to sell himself. He has to sell the YONEX brand. Then he has to help them in any way YONEX can to help them win. And then he also needs kids that are going to, as he explained, that are going to embody the YONEX brand. Wow, it's pretty complex.
It is, Johnny, but I want to just highlight, this is why I wanted to have Carsten on, because when we sat together in Bad Homburg, I was saying to myself, here's what I was hearing from an incredibly talented professional in scouting and recruiting. And it just hit me. It was like the investment of time, one interview or decade or over years. And I'm thinking about the best people that I recruited were the people that I recruited for a long period of time. You don't find A players in one interview. You find A players that are not looking to leave, and you recruit them over a period of time. The other thing that was resonating for me was this concept of understanding where they could be, where they are now, and where they could be if they just were playing for the right team, using the right brackets, using the right technology. I was struck by that. And then the last thing I was struck by was this bond, was this, Carsten was showing me the video of him in the box in Roland Garros in France, when Niels won, and you could just see he was elated, and it was on social media. And so like now this player or this employee is seeing the person that scouted them or recruited them, and they are even more almost more happy for that individual's success than the individual. And those were just leadership lessons for me that I was thinking about. I said, there's direct parallels there. So I'm very glad you accepted the invitation, Carsten. Thank you for coming.
It was really, really my pleasure. And I mean, in tennis, we always say, and maybe this is something you heard this quote. Maybe I should finish with this, but it fits perfectly to tennis and maybe also to recruiting. I always say, if someone loses a match, I always say, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So, and this is something you have to take something out of the match, and you never lose. Yeah, if you're not winning, you're learning, and I think this is something we all can use in our jobs as well.
Yeah, I only have one question for you, Carsten. Where's the Eiffel Tower?
I can show you.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, sure. I stand for my word.
Oh, that's awesome.
There it is. All right.
There it is on his ankle. Whoa, that's not just a little one. That's a big one, buddy.
I mean, I'm always, but this is why I was like this in sales. If I say something, I stand for my word. So I had to do it. And for me, it's a pleasure and a good memory, because in this trip, I also met my idol, Andre Agassi. So it was a special week. Niels won, the doubles won, girls doubles won. So I'm proud to have the Eiffel Tower. It was stupid to say it before, but now I really love it.
No, I saw the picture of you on LinkedIn where you met your hero, Andre Agassi. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was.
Yeah. Well, Carsten, hey, I got to tell you, it's been enjoyable for me too, and I'm sure it's going to be really enjoyable for our audience. So thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it, and best of luck to you, man. I'm going to be following you now. Following your players.
Johnny, what do you want to go to Wimbledon next year? Let's do it.
I'm always up for stuff like that.
Let's do it. You up for having some visitors at Wimbledon next year, Carsten?
Yeah, I'm there. I will show you. I don't know if you know Pimm's is the drink they are drinking in Wimbledon. We have some strawberries and cream and some Pimm's, and at the evening we have some beer and some wine. Sounds very good to me.
Enjoy your upcoming trip to the United States. If you get that, we talked about it. If we figure it out, let's figure out a way to get together. But I'm thankful for the beginning of a friendship for Johnny and I with you. And I'm thankful for you coming on and continued success, Carsten. I really, really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Amazing.
Thank you, Carsten. Thank you, Johnny Cap. And thanks to everyone for listening to another episode of the Revenue Builders Podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Be sure to check us out at forcemanagement.com.